Hello everyone, I'm Meteorologist Chad Samuel. It's time for another Ask the Meteorologist segment. This is where I take your questions sent in via social media and email and see if we can give you some answers to some weather questions. Our first question this morning, how does frost form when temperatures are above freezing? This question comes from Randy Korn, and this all has to do with a phenomenon we saw last week. It's called radiational cooling, and that's when temperatures drop during the overnight hours, generally under clear skies and calm winds, and that allows the temperatures to drop. Now, the air temperature will be a little bit warmer than the temperature on surfaces, say grass, cars, and maybe picnic tables. At that point, you get deposition, and that's when the water vapor skips the liquid process and goes right to a frost formation, and that's when you get the frost to form on some of those surfaces because the surfaces are just a little bit colder than the air temperatures, and that's when you get the frost, especially in these cold mornings. So thanks for that question, Randy. Next question comes to us from Tab Beck, and he wants to know if I can compare the stats from the Galveston hurricane of 1900 versus more recent hurricanes in terms of the stats. And the most recent big hurricane we've had was Hurricane Laura back in 2020. And if you look at those two hurricanes side by side, the Galveston hurricane had winds of about 145 miles an hour, while Hurricane Laura had winds close to 150. The big difference between the two storms is going to be the deaths. Of course, the Galveston hurricane, we know, close to 8,000 deaths. Hurricane Laura, about 42. Now, again, we attribute that to the fact that during the 1900 hurricane, there were no early warning systems like we have today. So that was the big difference. And then the other big difference was the amount of damage. In 1900, $35 million damage to Galveston Island. You adjust that for inflation, that's $1.3 billion in today's numbers, versus 2020, the amount of damage, $19 billion. So while the storms were fairly similar in size, the bigger destruction, I think, in terms of death certainly was in the Galveston hurricane of 1900. Final question this morning, explain how to figure out how close the storm is by observing lightning and thunder. Kirby Gribbs gives us that question, and this is a matter of time and also distance. Where lightning travels almost instantaneously, light travels very quickly, whereas thunder and sound travels about 1 mile every 5 seconds. So the rule is, from the lightning to the thunder, 5 seconds equals 1 mile, and every 5 seconds is an additional mile after that. So for example, if it's 30 seconds between the lightning flash and the crack of thunder, you're about 6 miles away. Now remember, if you can hear thunder, you are close enough to be struck by the lightning. So just remember that. Of course, a sharp, loud crack means that storm is very, very close. The long rolling thunder means that the storm is nearby, and if it's a deep rumble, that means that the storm is a little bit further away. So some great questions there this morning. And of course, if you want to send us your weather questions anytime, you can message me on Facebook or send us an email. We'll answer those questions for you again next Tuesday.